At my birthday party, I planned to announce my pregnancy. Instead, my boyfriend took the mic and said, "I have a confession, I'm not the father." I stared at him. "Then who is?" I asked. He pointed at my boss. Gasps echoed as my boss said, "We agreed not to tell her yet." I blinked back tears. Well, happy birthday to me. I'm fired, aren't I? You know those moments when your whole life splits clean in half? Like, everything before and everything after? That moment for me was the night I turned 33. It was supposed to be a happy night. Actually, scratch that, it was supposed to be the happiest night. I had this whole plan to tell everyone, including my boyfriend Clay, that I was pregnant. I had this cute little speech ready, nothing too cheesy, but just enough to make people cry a little and toast with overpriced Prosecco. I'd even ordered these little chocolate cupcakes with pink and blue frosting inside, so when people bit in, the color would spill out and everyone would go, ah, in unison. You know, that Pinterest Y crap I used to roll my eyes at before I actually wanted a baby. Now I think back on that night, and I want to punch myself for being so goddamn naive. It was a Friday night in April, and the place was packed. I'd rented out the upstairs of this little lounge on K Street called the Velvet Hour. Low lighting, jazzy playlists, cozy booths, and a bar that makes a Kaler lemon drop martini. It had just the right vibe, intimate but still nice enough to feel like a special occasion. Clay helped me plan it. At least, he pretended to. He acted all sweet the week leading up to it, kept asking if I was excited, telling me how proud he was of me. He even brought home flowers the night before, which should have been a red flag, honestly. He's not a flowers guy. Not unless he's making up for something. But I was too wrapped up in the excitement to notice. Too busy telling myself everything was going to be okay. That this baby would pull us closer. That we'd finally feel like a team again. Stupid. My coworkers showed up first, Sandra, who always talks too loud after 2 drinks, and Khalid, who's nice enough but has a habit of calling women, girl boss, like it's a compliment. I saw a few of my cousins trickle in, followed by Clay's brother and his wife. And then, surprisingly, my boss, Karsten, walked in. That threw me a little. Karsten doesn't do parties. He's stiff, corporate, a total numbers guy. Wears those thin glasses that scream, "I haven't slept in a week," and always has a spreadsheet open on his phone. I hadn't even expected him to RSVP, let alone show up. But there he was, in a gray button-down and jeans that looked like they hadn't been worn since 2015. He waved awkwardly. I waved back, equally awkward. Clay noticed him too. His jaw got a little tight when Karsten walked in. I chalked it up to the usual tension. They'd never really clicked. Clay used to joke that Karsten looked like someone who collected expired vitamins. Didn't think he'd show, Clay muttered, sipping his drink. Neither did I said, laughing. Guess the free drinks worked. I should have known something was off. Clay wasn't acting normal. He kept checking his phone, and his smile never quite reached his eyes. But I figured he was just nervous. I mean, we were about to become parents. That's a big deal. I assumed he was just overwhelmed, like I was. At about 9:30, I was getting ready to give my little speech. I could feel the butterflies in my stomach, though, let's be honest, part of that might have been the baby. I was just hitting 12 weeks, and I swear I already felt her flutter sometimes, like a tiny wing brushing the inside of me. Clay beat me to it. He stood up, clinked his glass with a fork, and cleared his throat. I froze. He wasn't supposed to be the one speaking. Everyone turned toward him, expecting a toast or some corny joke. "Hey everyone," he said. "Thanks for coming to celebrate Nora. I know she probably thinks I'm going to say something mushy right now." Light chuckles around the room. But I actually need to say something serious. Something I've been keeping to myself. I remember the exact second I realized something was wrong. It was the way his voice wavered. Not like he was emotional. Like he was scared. "I'm not the father." Silence. A few people laughed nervously, thinking it was some weird joke. I didn't laugh. I stood up. "Clay," I said slowly. "What are you talking about?" He looked at me, dead in the eyes. "I'm not the father, Nora. Of the baby. I found out last week. The world's fun." I had to grab the back of the booth to steady myself. My ears were ringing, and it felt like someone had vacuumed all the air out of the room. What? I whispered. He didn't say anything, just lifted his hand and pointed across the room to him. I followed his finger, and there he was. Karsten, my goddamn boss. White as a ghost. Frozen, hands twitching like he didn't know what to do with them. Gasps. Muffled whispers. My cousin Lydia audibly said, "No way." Then Karsten stepped forward. Like that was going to help. "Clay, we agreed," he started. My eyes snapped to him. "You what?" I said, voice cracking. "You agreed?" You both knew. Karsten held his hands out like I was a wild animal about to charge. Nora, we didn't want to hurt you. We were going to tell you, just not like this. Oh, well, great timing, I said, laughing like a maniac. Really makes the cupcakes with pink and blue frosting feel festive. Clay was already walking away, setting the mic down. I'm sorry, Nora, he said without looking back. But I deserve better than this. I turned to Karsten, fists clenched. You unbelievable bastard. He looked like he wanted to say something, probably some corporate bullshit like, let's circle back, but I was already crying. Happy birthday to me, I muttered, wiping my cheeks. I'm fired, aren't I? Karsten flinched. Nora, come on. I'd never save it. I may be pregnant, but I'm not an idiot. After the party imploded, I didn't go home. I couldn't. I stood on the sidewalk outside the Velvet Hour, shivering even though the air wasn't cold. Just shock, I guess. My shoes were killing me, and the soft music leaking out from the bar felt surreal, like it belonged to some other night, some other version of my life that had nothing to do with me. My phone buzzed with texts I didn't want to read. Messages from coworkers, are you okay? WTF just happened? Call me if you need anything. Some from family. One from Clay, just 3 words. I'm so sorry. I didn't reply to anyone. Instead, I called Marnie, my oldest friend. The only person I trusted enough to be broken in front of. She answered on the second ring, out of breath. Are you okay? I just saw Jules' post. Nora, what the hell happened? I didn't even know what to say. I opened my mouth and a sob came out instead. She told me to come straight over. Marnie lives in a little bungalow off Broadway, one of those places with creaky floors and crooked picture frames and the comforting smell of old books and eucalyptus. She met me at the door with a blanket and a mug of peppermint tea and didn't ask questions until I was ready, which took hours. I curled up on her lumpy couch, mascara smeared across my cheeks, her cat Luna nestled at my feet like some grief counselor in a fur coat. Eventually, I whispered, I think I ruined everything. Marnie didn't flinch. She just handed me a tissue. No, she said. They ruined everything. You made a mistake. There's a difference. I lied. Yeah, so did they. I shook my head, wiping my face. It wasn't just a one-night thing. But it wasn't. It wasn't a whole affair either. I was lonely. Clay and I weren't, I paused. It doesn't matter. It still happened. And now it's all out. Marnie sat beside me. What do you want to do? I stared into the tea like it held the answer. I don't know. I'm pregnant with a man's baby who has 2 kids and a wife. My boyfriend walked out. My boss might still technically be my boss. I've officially become the woman people whisper about in the elevator. You're also still you, she said softly. You're still smart and strong and capable. And you're still going to be an amazing mom. I let the words settle. They felt like sunlight trying to crack through storm clouds. The next few days were a blur. Clay moved out of our apartment while I was at work. He left his keys on the counter and a note that just said, I don't hate you. But I can't stay. Karsten, meanwhile, sent flowers. 3 times. Then texts. Then emails. A voicemail. He said he wanted to talk in person. I ignored every single one. But HR didn't ignore me. I got an email from them the following Monday asking me to schedule a meeting. My stomach dropped. I thought I was going to be fired. Turns out, they wanted to reassign me to another team while an internal review was conducted. Internal review. The words made me feel dirty. Like the whole company now had a file on my SX life. By the end of the week, I'd been moved to a new office on a different floor. They gave me a polite explanation about minimizing distractions and preserving team cohesion, but we all knew what it was. They wanted me out of sight, out of mind. I sat in my new cubicle, surrounded by strangers who didn't know me well enough to care, staring at spreadsheets I couldn't make sense of. My hands hovered over my keyboard, but I couldn't type. My chest felt tight all the time, like I was trying to breathe through a straw. I found myself drifting off, picturing Ivy's face. I didn't know her name yet, but I called her Ivy in my head. The only part of this entire nightmare that still felt good. About 2 weeks after the party, I finally agreed to meet Karsten. I don't know why I said yes. Maybe I needed to scream at him. Maybe I needed closure. Maybe I just wanted to look him in the eye and see if any of it had meant something. We met at Old Soul Coffee on L Street. Public place. Bright lights. No room for drama. He was already there when I arrived, sitting stiffly at a corner table with 2 cups of coffee. He looked older than I remembered. His hair had more gray in it, and his eyes were puffy like he hadn't been sleeping. Nora, he said, standing. I didn't hug him. Just sat down and stared. He slid the coffee toward me. Still like it with oat milk, right? I didn't touch it. Why? I asked. Straight to the point. He sighed. Because I'm an idiot. Because I got in too deep. Because I told myself it was one night and it didn't mean anything, but it did. I bit the inside of my cheek. Hard. You told me you were separated. I felt separated, he said. I know that's bullshit, but at the time. You could have told me. You could have told her. You could have taken responsibility before it got to this. I know. Silence. She kicked me out, he said quietly. My wife. After the party. I'm staying with my brother right now. I looked down at my hands. What do you want from me? I asked. Because I'm not going to be your second act. I'm not going to raise your kid while you figure out your mess. He shook his head. I'm not asking for that. I want to be involved. I want to do the right thing. I don't expect you to forgive me. You're right, I said, standing. Because I don't. He didn't follow me when I left. The days got heavier. But they also got quieter. I started journaling again. Taking long walks. Talking to Marnie every night. I even started going to therapy. My company offered free sessions through HR, probably to cover their own ass, but I took it anyway. My therapist was a woman named Lydia, calm and no nonsense. She helped me sort through the mess without making me feel judged. I don't want Ivy to grow up thinking she was a mistake, I told her one day. She won't, Lydia said. As long as you don't treat her like one. That line stuck with me. Then, one cold Thursday afternoon in February, I opened my door to find Clay standing there. He looked different. Not just tired, but like someone who'd been walking around underwater. He was holding a small stuffed elephant. Hi, he said. Hi, can I come in? I hesitated, then stepped aside. He didn't sit. Just stood there, clutching the elephant like it was a peace offering. I'm not ready to be a father, he said. But I am ready to stop hating you. The words hit me like a wave. I miss the version of us that laughed, he added, voice soft. I nodded. Me too. We didn't talk about getting back together. Not really. But he stayed a while. We talked. Cried a little. Laughed once over something dumb on the TV. It was a start. Not of a romance. But maybe of something else. A truce. After Clay left that night, I sat on the couch for a long time, just holding the little elephant he'd brought. I think it hit me, all at once, that everything in my life had shifted, not in some dramatic explosion like at the party, but like slow tectonic plates grinding beneath me. The cracks had been there for a long time. The earthquake just finally came. Clay wasn't coming back, not as a boyfriend, anyway. But there was something unexpectedly comforting about seeing him. Like maybe we'd find our way to some version of family that made sense for what we were now. Something built on respect, if not romance. I slept better that night than I had in weeks. Work remained awkward. The whispers had died down, but I knew my name still traveled in little ripples down hallways and through chat threads I wasn't part of. People weren't cruel. They were just curious. Quietly judgmental. The way coworkers always are when they think your personal life is more dramatic than your professional one. Karsten had gone on some kind of personal leave. I heard the words in a meeting one morning and nobody elaborated. Just like that, he was gone. And just like that, I was left with this weird vacuum. No Clay, no Karsten, no pregnancy plan that looked anything like the one I'd imagined. But Ivy? She was still with me. Every morning, she reminded me. First it was a flutter. Then it was little kicks. I started to feel like she was tapping out her own rhythm inside me, like she was saying, hey, I'm here. We're still doing this. I talked to her constantly. In the car, in the shower, at night when I couldn't sleep. I'd press my hand against my belly and whisper, I've got you, baby girl. I've got you. One afternoon in March, I ran into Karsten in the parking garage under our building. It was the first time I'd seen him since the coffee shop. I was waddling a bit by then, 6 months pregnant, visibly showing and out of breath just walking 10 feet. He froze when he saw me. Nora, he said, voice quiet. Hey. I didn't respond at first. Just stared at him. His hair was longer. He looked like he'd lost weight. He took a slow step forward. I know I don't have any right to ask, but I'd really like to be part of her life. If you'll let me. I crossed my arms. You think this is about what you want? He shook his head. No. I think it's about what she deserves. I studied his face. He looked sincere, but tired, hollowed out. I didn't say yes. I didn't say no. All I said was, we'll see. And I meant it. April rolled in like a storm cloud. My due date wasn't until June, but I was big. Heavy. Swollen ankles, sore back, and a constant dull pressure that made it hard to breathe, let alone focus. But I kept going, because I didn't know what else to do. One night, I was home folding baby clothes, tiny onesies with little lemons on them, a mint green sleeper with "worth the wait" embroidered across the chest, when I felt a sharp twinge in my side. Then another. It wasn't time. It couldn't be. But the pain didn't stop. It kept coming. Faster. Sharper. I called Marnie in a panic. She picked up immediately. "What's wrong?" I think it's happening. The baby, she's coming." "Nora, it's too early, wait. Breathe. Are you bleeding?" "No. But oh God, it hurts." She didn't even let me finish. "I'm calling an ambulance. I'll meet you at Mercy General." The next 48 hours were a blur of fluorescent lights, nurses with calm voices, and machines that beeped in strange, rhythmic patterns. Ivy came early. Too early. They tried to stop labor, but my body had other plans. She was born on a rainy Tuesday morning, weighing just under 4 pounds. I didn't get to hold her right away. They whisked her off to the NICU, and I lay there in the delivery room, numb and shaking and waiting to hear if she was breathing okay. She was. Barely. But she was alive. And she was mine. I spent the next few weeks shuffling back and forth between the NICU and my apartment. Marnie set up a rotating meal train with my coworkers, some of whom I didn't even think liked me, and my cousin Lydia practically moved in for a week to help with laundry and groceries. Clay came too. He sat beside me in the NICU in awkward silence, staring at Ivy through the little glass walls of her isolette. "She's tiny," he whispered. "She's a fighter," I whispered back. We didn't talk much, but we sat together, and that was enough. Karsten didn't come, but he sent flowers, and a card that just said, "I hope she grows up knowing how strong you are." I kept it, folded it up, and tucked it in the side of Ivy's baby book, next to her hospital bracelet and the first photo they let me take of her. Being a new mom, especially to a preemie, was a world I wasn't prepared for. The alarms. The tubes. The sterile smell that clung to everything. I cried more in those 3 weeks than I'd cried in my entire life before that. But there was also this lightness. Every time I held Ivy against my chest, her heart beat like a hummingbird's wing. I felt this clarity. Like all the mess didn't matter as much. She was here. She was safe. And I'd figure out the rest. Eventually. I went back to work after 6 weeks, part-time at first. People tiptoed around me like I might shatter. Nobody said Karsten's name. Not even once. It was as if the whole thing had been erased. But I remembered. Every day. And then, one afternoon, I opened my email and saw a subject line I hadn't expected. "Request to discuss custody options from Karsten." My stomach turned. I hadn't heard from him in over a month. I thought maybe he'd taken the hint. Moved on. Stayed in the background where he belonged. But there it was. A polite, formal, carefully worded email. He wanted to have a conversation about establishing legal rights and a schedule for visitation. I stared at the screen, heart pounding. He wanted to be a dad. And just like that, the whole balance I'd started to build threatened to collapse again. I stared at the email from Karsten for a long time. It was polite, formal, cold, like he hadn't seen my insides torn apart on a hospital bed. Like he hadn't looked me in the eyes, asked for my forgiveness, then ghosted for over a month while I stitched my life back together one diaper and midnight feeding at a time. I didn't reply right away. Instead, I printed the email out and took it to my lawyer. Because yeah, I got a lawyer. Marnie's sister, Callie, had just finished a stint in family law, and she agreed to take my case pro bono. She read the letter in silence, then looked at me with that slight smirk lawyers get when they smell blood. "He doesn't stand a chance," she said, tapping the paper. "You want full custody?" "Absolutely," I said. "Cool. Let's ruin his month." The legal process was slow, but clean. Callie was good, very good. She built the case with the precision of a heart surgeon and the attitude of a woman who had once chased a cheating ex out of a bar with her stiletto. We documented everything. Every mistext. Every medical bill I paid alone. Every day Karsten didn't show up at the NICU or check on Ivy. And the kicker? His wife, Lena, who had kicked him out after the party, was more than willing to give a statement. Turns out, she had plenty to say. About the months of lies. The affair. His history of dipping out of hard situations. I never asked her for revenge, but she handed it to me anyway, in a beautifully notarized affidavit. When we got to mediation, Karsten looked tired. Worn. Like life had finally caught up with him. He tried to play the part of the concerned father. Said he wanted a relationship with Ivy. That he respected my role as the mother. Callie smiled sweetly, then pulled out the files. All of them. Receipts. Records. The full 9 yards. She ended with, "This is a man who didn't want to be involved until he thought he might lose control." Nora isn't denying him access out of spite. She's protecting her daughter from instability and manipulation. Karsten didn't even try to argue. His lawyer leaned in, whispered something, and Karsten's jaw tightened. He signed the agreement that day. No legal custody. Supervised visitation only at my discretion. No overnight stays. No legal rights. The look on his face wasn't anger. It was worse. It was realization. That he lost. Not because I fought dirty, but because I fought smart. With grace. With facts. With everything he underestimated in me. That was the revenge. Not public humiliation. Not yelling. Not even seeing him cry. Just watching him realize that he gambled and lost. By Ivy's first birthday, everything had changed. Clay and I weren't together, but we co-parented like pros. He came to all the checkups, helped with childcare, and even started dating again, someone kind, low drama, who loved Ivy like her own niece. We'd laugh sometimes, late at night, about the weirdness of our lives. Remember when I thought I was the dad, he'd say, and we'd both crack up. Remember when Karsten thought he could just walk in and play hero? Clay would shake his head. That man's got the emotional range of a kitchen sponge. As for work? Oh, I left that job. But not before one final move. See, I knew the system. Knew the HR policies. Knew exactly how to file a formal complaint citing power imbalance, inappropriate relationship with a direct report, and failure to disclose conflict of interest. I didn't need revenge in the form of a screaming match or a slap across the face. I needed a record. 3 months later, I heard through the grapevine that Karsten had been transitioned out of the company. No promotion. No glowing farewell. Just a polite email saying he was moving on to explore new opportunities. And me? I landed a better job. Higher pay, better benefits, and, most importantly, a company where I walked in on my own terms. Now Ivy's too. She's healthy. Wild. Talks nonstop. Loves applesauce and stacking blocks and yells, "Mommy watch," 20 times an hour. She's the center of my universe. Sometimes, when I watch her sleep, I think about the chaos that brought her into the world. And I smile. Not because it was easy. Not because I'd do it the same way again. But because I didn't let it break me. Because I fought for her. For me. And I won.